It's our last live show of the week. Tomorrow night we'll have our last greatest games, at least on the schedule for now. And it's going to be the 95 Orange Bowl. At the conclusion of the 94 season, the Huskers' victory over the Miami Hurricanes. We'll also be having a Facebook Live chat going on in conjunction with the game tomorrow night, hosted by our own Brendan Stye. That's going to be a lot of fun to hear what those guys have to say as they recall the ins and outs of that game against Warren Sapp and the Miami Hurricanes. So that's tomorrow night. You can watch the video part of that at huskersports.tv. That should be a lot of fun tomorrow night. Coming up this hour, we continue on our position breakdowns of the Cornhuskers. Defensive backs coach Travis Fisher going to be along to talk about the DB room, which I think is really getting crowded in a good way. I think there's a lot of good players in that defensive backs room. We'll hear the breakdown from the coach. We will then go through and pick out how we feel like that room grades out with the rest of the teams in the Big Ten West later on in the hour. We'll also have our Flicks picks of the week later in this hour as well. We did running backs the other night, Ben, with Ryan Held, and there's news that came out today, Husker Online reporting that Nebraska has added a late walk-on to the football team. Young man from Tallahassee, Florida, by the name of Jaquez Yant, who Rivals has him as a 3-star running back. He apparently, Travis Fisher was down there visiting that high school, talking to Keyshawn Green, who's a linebacker that's on the campus for Nebraska right now. And Nebraska liked him, made an offer, was told at that point that there was some issues, hurdles that he had to overcome in order to move on to the next level. Apparently he has cleared those hurdles and now headed to Lincoln to be a part of Ryan Held's running back room. But this is a pretty good little late get for Ryan Held. We talked the other night about you're getting better depth at that running back spot, but you could certainly use some more. And so here they get Yant, young man from the state of Florida that at least Rivals thought enough of to make him a 3-star.
Yeah, then you consider the fact that what Ryan Held said about Brody Belt, too, and their ability to get walk-ons into the game. So, you feel like this isn't a big deal. Just think about, Nebraska in recent years with Wyatt Mazur and now Brody Belt. This is anybody that's capable, that's willing and able to put in the work and understand what they're doing out there is going to get a look. And, again, we talked about this a little while ago, Greg, with the amount of walk-on additions that Nebraska has made. And we could talk about the quantity, but I think it's more justice to talk about the quality of walk-ons that Nebraska's staff has been able to find, turn over rocks, and find all these, different avenues to add players. And these ones aren't even – aren't counting against your scholarship limits. And so, again, to find the resources that are going to come help your football team in ways, in creative ways, nonetheless. And chalk this one up to an assist to Keyshawn Green, incoming freshman too. I just think that it's so spectacular that the coaches are able to do this and positions of need as well. We obviously special teams. We've seen the additions to the special teams specifically with kickers and punters, but also now you're starting to see them address needs on the football field, in this case running back. So I'm eager to find out more about this young man's story and why he thought Nebraska is a good place for him and what this place is going to do for him in his career, and eager to see what the coaches think of him once he gets here and to start working.
You hear the term all the time, don't leave any stone unturned. Well, that's what I kind of think of when I heard this story today. I'm like, wow, that's a really good – I mean, at some point along the line, Nebraska had identified Yant as a guy that was potential for them enough that they made an offer. And it does say here that they made the offer with maybe the thought of him being a safety, a DB, that type of player, that he's just a good football player. Well, this is really good work. And, like you just said, I mean, Nebraska's found a couple of walk-on guys over the last 3 or 4 months that to me have been pretty impressive. You get the guy from Iowa, the guy from Colorado State that added the offensive line room. Now you have Yant, and right now he's going to start as a running back, but obviously Nebraska's thought about him at some other positions as well. I'm impressed. You can sit there and say this staff just been sitting on their hands for 4 months. That's not the case at all. They've been out there finding guys, finding people to try to help build some numbers and depth on the football team. So that's really, really impressive to do that today, and another nice little addition for Nebraska. Interested to hear from Travis Fisher here in a couple minutes, talk more about these DBs. Austin also had this little note in the ticker about Zion Williamson leaving the NBA bubble. Still a couple of weeks away from when they're going to start playing games, but to take care of a family matter must be something pretty bad. I hope everything's okay. Zion certainly is a budding star. Austin already has him as the top player in the NBA because he wore a Duke uniform at one point in time in his life. I'm not quite there yet to crown him as the greatest thing in the game. I think he's really good, and in the short time we got to see him play over the winter after he got himself healthy, he was certainly making a big difference for the Pelicans, but that doesn't sound good. You have to just up and head out the door.
No, especially with a family matter. I think everybody's first assumption, this day and age is going to be something coronavirus related, whether that's the case or not. We don't really know, and then we'll find out more on what the league supposes is done with Zion and his situation, and if there's going to be any bending of the rule of the self-quarantine period before you can play. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to hear that today, but I don't know why you would. So yeah, Pelicans fans maybe without Zion here, at least for a little while.
Austin also mentioned the Memorial Golf Tournament. That's Jack Nicklaus's tournament. It's the second straight week they've played on the same course in Dublin, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. It also marked the return of one Tiger Woods. First time he has played at a competitive golf tournament since February, so it's been 5 months. I think he shot even par, maybe one under today. Certainly not out of it at all, but it's been great that golf's been going. Last night after we got done with the show, I flipped on FS1. They had NASCAR. They were at Bristol last night. They had 20,000 fans in the stands at Bristol. So NASCAR, which has been up and running now for over a month, moving along with their sport. My fingers are crossed for the same thing to happen for MLB and the NBA as well. Hopefully they can get going and keep the problems and the coronavirus positive test to a small amount, a manageable amount, because each thing that kind of gets going, it gives everybody confidence that sports can coexist with coronavirus.
Yeah, and the opposite effect, too. I think we're starting to see more and more conferences act on fall seasons, either pushing their dates back or canceling altogether. And it seems to be a domino effect, and you hope the dominoes are going to start to fall in the right direction as opposed to the wrong direction.
Right.
As we said, the Ivy League kind of setting the tone with canceling the fall sports last week, and starting to see a couple at least postpone the start date, and a couple more follow suit that they're just not going to play at all in the fall. So, once the decisions are made, you hope that they're kind of falling the other way, and this thing's going to start, so this thing's going to start, and this thing's going to start. But I think it's still too early to tell.
Yeah. All right, so that's what we have here on the program tonight. 866-HUSKER, 1-866-487-5371. When we come back, Travis Fisher here on Sports Honey. It is July. I was on a show today, and they were asking me about the heat, and I'm like, well, it is July, right? It's supposed to be hot. So, but it is going to get extremely warm the next couple of days. Time for us now to continue on our position breakdowns.
Tonight on Sports Nightly, it's the Husker football position breakdowns.
Johnson sends a man in motion. It's Baker. They turn. They hand it off to Baker around the left side, and he gets hit and knocked down. What a play by Markel Dismute, firing up from his safety position.
Tonight,
Brandon Peters lowers the hand, gets the shotgun snap, back to throw, looks, holds, has plenty of time, now guns it downfield, and the pass is going to be intercepted, picked off at the 10-yard line by Cam Tanner-Britt. He's to the 20 and gets up to the 21-yard line. Cam Tanner-Britt's second pick of the year, and there's a turnover forced by the Black Shirts.
defensive backs coach Travis Fisher.
And here to talk about the defensive backs, Husker defensive backs coach Travis Fisher. This has certainly been a crazy couple of months. Have you learned anything about your guys the last couple of months? Maybe you've found some leaders in that room over the last few months.
I mean, with a lot of stuff that's going on across the world, you got to give those guys a lot of credit with things changing constantly on us and on them. And it's just a lot going on with them, being able to trying to be safe and, give the university a lot of credit. What they have going on, it's awesome, man. I'm talking about the kids are well taken care of and they're safe, and the guys are responding to every change in every situation that they've been in. They're responding excellent. So I'm happy for the guys that are here and the guys that are moving forward. They got the young guys moving forward, and I'm very happy and pleased where they're at today.
Well, let's start with some of your more seasoned players, and let's start with DiCaprio. How big a part of that defense has he been the last couple of years, and your thoughts and expectations for him going into his senior season?
Yeah, at this point, DiCaprio's a grown man. I mean, everything he's doing, he handles it. He handles it like a grown man. He's a leader in the room. He's done far and beyond what you ask him to do every day. He's been a mentor to the young guys. He's been a great teammate. He's been a leader. He's a leader to the older guys, holding himself accountable, showing up. He's working out 3 or 4 times a day. Most of the time he's on his own. He's doing a great job. Can't say enough about him.
Coach, last year we certainly saw strides made by Markel Dismuke. What did you see from Markel, and what kind of senior season can he have?
Markel has done a great job of being able to learn the defense and learn exactly where, his responsibility, and also knowing other teammates' responsibility, and just knowing the defense. He's done a great job of helping the young guys learn the playbook, and just being, just like DCAP, just an extra voice in the room that can help guys come along faster.
Markel's role really was enhanced last year with the unfortunate injury to Deontay Williams. Give us an update on Deontay. First of all, I hope he's healthy. And then how much did you miss that young man last year on the field?
Yeah, with Deontay going down first game of the season, it was great that we had Markel having a great training camp. And yes, we did miss Deontay during the season, but at the same time, we had no time to lick wounds. Had just put the next guy out there. So Markel did the best that he could, and he had a lot of good games, and he had some games where he could have done better. But we're happy with Markel and Deontay. Today he's a grown man. He's exactly like a Boodle as far as everything you ask him to do, 3 or 4 times working out, looks like a beast, moving like a rocket. When he's running around, he's picked up weight. He's strong. He looks like a pro.
Well, you and I have talked for the last couple of years. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Very happy with Deontay as far as where he's at today. If the football season started today, he'll be ready to go.
You and I have talked for the last couple of years. You love guys that can be versatile, that can bounce from spot to spot. I don't think there's anybody that exemplifies that more than Cam Taylor-Britt. Talk about his versatility, and where do you envision him being for you on the field this fall?
Kind of what Cam ended up at last year. I put him at corner, and I didn't want to move him around as much going into next year. But he has so much versatility, you can put him anywhere. He's been groomed to be that type of player since he's been here. He's played every position in the secondary. He knows it all. But every name that I've just given you, like, Deontay, Boodle, and Cam can play every position in the secondary. And that's, some great attributes that those guys have, to be able to play every position in the secondary and know it, and know the positions as well, knowing the defense as well. And so Cam is another one that's maturing a whole lot. He's getting a lot better. With the leadership of Deontay and the leadership of Boodle, they're helping bring Cam along. So Cam should be another one in the future that'll be just like those guys.
Yeah, I'm busy with Husker defensive backs coach Travis Fisher here as we break down positions on the Husker Sports Network. All right, that's kind of your older group. Let's kind of come down now to some younger guys. Braxton Clark we've seen flashes of him the last couple of seasons. Where is he in his development, coach, and what kind of expectations do you have for him this fall?
Yeah, we put Braxton in, and he started the game. I think it was Purdue. But Braxton started the game and did a great job. I mean, he did a great job, and a couple times he made some pretty good plays. But I tell you what, Braxton is another one that I can put on the field. I'm feeling very confident about putting on the field this season. And so, Braxton is getting that final stage of grind that I usually do to the younger guys, and grind them to make sure that they're able to go out and play in front of 90,000 people every week and play on a very high level without folding any time in the football game. So Braxton is coming out of that shell, and it's going to be competitive in camp. It's always going to be competitive, but it's going to be very competitive in camp to see who come out of that thing on top going to week one.
That next group would be those guys that are in their second year in the program, the Noah Pola-Gates, the Quentin Newsomes, the Miles Farmer. We saw bits and pieces of each of them a year ago. How about their development? And obviously I would expect a bigger role, and I think you would expect a bigger role out of those guys coming in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm just going to be interested in camp. Those guys, the younger guys, are not afraid. The older guys and the older guys are ready to compete. And so, you really can't tell with Miles Farmer and Quentin Newsome that those guys are too far younger than the other ones. DiCaprio, I get it, he's a senior, but Quentin Newsome looks like a junior or a senior. The way he moves around, Miles Farmer is right behind him, and he's playing the safety position too. Right? He's weigh a lot more. So Miles Farmer is probably the heaviest one, as far as how much he weighs. And he moves, those guys are putting in 2 or 3 workouts on their own. No coaches around, and they're doing a great job at it too. So, loving the heat, Mother Nature's been good to us around here. So those guys are loving the heat and playing out there in the heat, working out, out there in the heat. So they're doing a good job.
How big of a role can those guys, or maybe anybody in your room, play on special teams for this football team, Coach? Is that something that they're all willing and able to do?
Yeah, you got guys like Noah Pola-Gates that's a freak. Coming off that injury, you would think that Noah was probably going to be a little behind, but I'm telling you, he's not behind at all. He's actually ahead of schedule. He's matured so much, and if there's one guy in the room that I'm so proud of just over this last off season is probably Noah Pola-Gates, how he handled his injury and came back off his injury, and he's flying around. He's so much more mature, and we're going to see some great things coming out of him this year.
Now you've got some true freshmen that have arrived, Delancey, Francois, Lynham. You probably haven't had a lot of time around them, but obviously you liked them enough to give them scholarships, and they're going to have to come in and earn their stripes. But your thoughts about that core group that's now coming in and joining the program?
Yep, Delancey is, got in pretty late due to, when he graduated from high school. He hasn't been here long, and I haven't been around him much. But I tell you what, he jumped in with both feet. I mean, that's what you want him to do. You want him to jump in and don't want to dip that toe in the water. You just want him to jump in and then let him go. And so he did a great job of doing that. He's back here with the team, and he's working out. I tell you what, Tamar Lynham being a mid-year kid that came in a little early, he's put on 26 pounds since he's been here. So already. So you're talking about 26 pounds on a kid already. And he's jumped in both feet. So I'm just telling you, those younger guys look like sophomores. Probably, with me being able to coach guys from, 3 or 4 years, this is probably the first time that my freshmen, the ones that are here, my freshmen being mid-year guys, those freshmen look like they're sophomores. I mean, as far as everything that they're learning so much. So it's going to be an interesting camp, and it's going to be guys are all cool and they're close. I couldn't be more proud of that group. I think this is probably one of the best groups I've had as far as being mature in the room and sticking together. So I was happy with last year's team going into training camp. With some guys that needed to mature, but I think this year the guys that are coming to camp, those guys are very mature and ready to go.
Coach, you, like every other coach on the staff, you also have walk-ons in your room, and Eli Sullivan's been a big part of not only the defense but special teams the last couple of years. Do you anticipate him kind of having the same role again this fall?
Oh, Eli Sullivan, yep, those guys are my culture guys, those guys that help set that culture in that room and the way that it is. He has a voice in the room. Everybody listens to him. We love Eli. We got Ashton Hausman, those guys that jumped in. Those guys are already bonded with the guys, and they're around and they're working out. Yeah. Isaac Guilford is another one that's bonded with the guys. He's jumping around. Those guys are getting big. Those guys are working out. Those guys, they can't tell those guys are not on scholarship. I don't really look at guys like on scholarship and who's on scholarship and who's not. It's a maturity level, and are they willing to jump in with both feet? And that's where it all starts. So those guys that I just named, those guys are doing a great job, and they're gaining weight and they're working out, and they're working out twice a day as well, 2 or 3 times a day. So you're talking about those older guys, bring them along, they jump right in the boat.
Well, Coach, as always, we appreciate the rundown on the players. I can't wait for this thing to get going. You've done a terrific job at that room since coming to Nebraska, and I can't wait to see the competition get ramped up here in the next month. Keep them healthy, and let's hope we get some football here in a couple of months.
Yeah, I know it, man. I got my fingers crossed, and right now I'm preparing for a football season, so that's where my focus is at. But I'm ready for these guys to get started up here pretty soon, hopefully, and then get to competing every day and getting to build this thing the right way.
Travis Fisher, Husker defensive backs coach here on Sports Nightly. He joined us on our Sports Nightly hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Again, thanks to Travis Fisher, Husker defensive backs coach, for spending some time with us, breaking down the DB room, which it just seems stacked to me, Ben. I think there's going to just be so much competition in that room to get playing time. And while you got some guys you're pretty confident are going to be out there like DCAP and Deontay Williams and Cam Taylor-Britt, the other guys are going to have to play well. They're going to find themselves standing on the sidelines.
Yeah, there's a batch of them that just came in from Travis Fisher's hot area, that Miami area, and from Northwestern High School and surrounding high schools as well. Eager to see how those guys compete on the field too. And one young guy that I think is going to get a heck of a look that I thought played pretty well while he was in there last year is Braxton Clark. He's a guy that I think could pick up some of the slack with Lamar Jackson leaving. I was a huge fan of the way Braxton Clark played last year, and he's a tall, lanky guy. Had an interception last year, and feel like he's a guy that can make immediate impact this year as well. That is just waiting for an opportunity, and I think now's the time.
You look at this group, I think the one thing we've been kind of hoping for, and we had a question about it on Famous Face-Off last night, is you want more turnovers. You want more picks. Now, it's not all on the back end. You need pressure up front. You need pressure hitting the quarterback in the quarterback's face to loosen that up a little bit. But it sure would be nice to kind of see some more interceptions come the way of that group back there.
Yeah, it would, and I think it's not just on the DBs to do that. I think it's on the D-line to get pressure. I think those linebackers, too. Making life easier on the secondary, don't have a cover as long, and we did see some good plays on the ball last year. I think JoJo had a few of them from the linebacker spot. I can think of a couple plays that Lamar made by himself that were just great effort interceptions and closing gaps and closing speed. Sometimes that's all it is, but getting pressure up front of the quarterback and getting hits on the quarterback definitely makes that easier.
All right, let's get into it. Let's grade out how Nebraska's DBs rank with the rest of the folks in the Big Ten West. Give me your top 3, Ben. Who do you like at the top in the West?
Yeah, this was I got a disclaimer. This was a hard one to grade. I think a lot of times it's some of the spots are cut and dry, or there's a drop off. But I felt like 6 of the 7 groups here are going to be pretty solid. I think there's one group that is well below the rest of them, but sorting through the returners and the stats from last year, I've got Wisconsin at number 1, 12th in the nation against the pass last year. Obviously, with the secondary, Jim Leonard, a former NFL player, in the secondary is going to have those guys coached up at a high level, returning all 4 starters. And Fayon Hicks, Cesar Williams at corner, and Stout at safety, too, with Scott Nelson and Eric Burrell, both very good players at safety. So I've got Wisconsin at 1. I've got Minnesota at 2, surprisingly all the way up at 2. They were 9th in the country last year against the pass. They obviously lose Antoine Winfield, first-round draft pick, and you thought that would knock them down a few pegs, but they get everybody else back. Their corners, Benjamin St. Just and Corey Dunn, and obviously at safety, Jordan Howden, too, who was one of their leading tacklers a year ago for Minnesota. So I got the Gophers at 2, and I've got Northwestern all the way up at number 3. They were 23rd in the country against the pass last year, and they get everybody back, including a pair of safeties that are all Big Ten performers in Travis Whitlock and J.R. Pace, and they got a lot of depth at corner as well behind Cameron Ruiz. So I go Wisconsin 1. Based on their stats and who they got back, I got Minnesota at 2 and Northwestern all the way up at 3.
All right. Austin, give me your top 3.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Ben, a slightly different order, though. I've got Minnesota in the top spot. I know they lose Antoine Winfield. That's a big deal, but I still like what they have coming back a little bit more than I do at Wisconsin. I think those defensive backs were a big part of the Gophers' success last year, and they will be this year as well. Wisconsin is number 2, though. Again, a very similar story. There's not much separation between Minnesota and Wisconsin at the top of my list. In Northwestern, the continuity, getting everyone back is a big deal. I think that's really good for the Cats. So I've got them in my number 3 spot.
How about, do you have Josh's with you?
I do have Josh's. Josh ranks the Wildcats number 1.
Ooh.
So they're up at number 1. He has Nebraska's room as the second best in the West, and then Wisconsin in 3rd.
Okay. Josh shaking things up these first couple days of these position breakdowns. I like it. And I'm going to echo Ben. This was hard because there's a lot of good players in the secondary in the Big Ten West. This was not cut and dry. There's not a lot of difference between a lot of these teams, and you even go off their rankings from a year ago against the pass compared to the guys that they have coming back. It is this razor-thin margin in the defensive backfield spot. But I line up exactly like Ben. I go Wisconsin 1. I love having those 2 corners back if I'm them. I think that's a great place to start. And then Minnesota 2, Northwestern 3. So I go bang, 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 right along with Ben 1, 2, and 3. All right, Ben, how about 4 through 7?
Yeah, to finish it out here, here's where I got Nebraska. I got the Huskers 4th. They were 30th in the nation against the pass last year, and we obviously are a little more in the know with Nebraska's pieces in the secondary compared to maybe some of the preseason magazines and what they consider a returning starter and not. I think, yes, you lose Lamar Jackson, but getting Deontay Williams, I think, is immediately going to put Nebraska in the breadth of the conversation for best secondary in the West. So I've got the Huskers here at number 4. I've actually got Illinois all the way up here at number 5. They were 45th in the country against the pass last year, and they returned 3 starters, including corner Nate Hobbs, who was a very good on-ball corner, and a couple of safeties in Sidney Brown and Tony Adams. I also get Marquez Beeson back, who got injured in the early part of the year last year. So that's another guy that they were very confident and very high on as a freshman a year ago before getting injured. And I know people are probably going to scoff at the fact that I have Illinois ahead of Iowa, but a lot of this is eye test. I mean, Illinois really impressed me last year with what they were able to do in the secondary and how hard those guys hit and how hard those guys competed. So I've got the Illini at 5. Here's where I got Iowa at 6, 19th in the country against the pass last year. Their pass rush with Epinesa obviously helped that. You lose Geno Stone and you lose all Big Ten corner Michael Ojemudia to graduation. So you lose 2 big pieces if you're Iowa, with Stone at corner and Ojemudia at corner. You do get Jack Corner back, who was second on the team in tackles, but I'm interested to see how Iowa's secondary performs, losing those 2 parts and losing a guy like A.J. Epinesa, even though they were a top 20 team against the pass last year. And that's where the drop-off happens after Iowa. Purdue is by far the stellar last-place team in the league, 94th in the pass last year. You only get one of those guys back. They do get Tyler Coyle, a UConn transfer. I wonder if Bob Diaco had some sort of connection there with his former UConn ties, but Purdue is by far in the basement.
Okay, Austin?
Yeah, I'll get the Purdue part out of the way there in my cellar as well. Not very hard on that one. You lose a 2-year starter in Kenneth Major, have a backup safety back. Corey Trice could be good, 3 picks and 5 starts, but that's really all that Purdue has going on. So they're in my 7. Jumping back up to 4, this is where I have Nebraska. Greg, I'm with you. This group needs to create more turnovers. It really does. They need to swing a game with a pick or 2, and there are a lot of guys who can do it. They look like they have the ability to do it. The older guys that have played, the younger guys that haven't. If Noel Gates gets on the field, I think he could be a factor, but anyone has to step up and really make actual plays in the secondary, not just prevent big ones. I've got Iowa at number 5. Losing Ojemudia and Stone is a big loss to the back end, but Iowa always seems to have a guy. You know, what Wisconsin does with running backs, Iowa does with defensive backs. So I will bet on Iowa's defensive backs over Illinois'. Again, really solid. Sidney Brown, 3 picks last year. Nate Hobbs, like Ben mentioned, a solid corner. Getting Beeson back is a big deal. I just trust Iowa a little bit more.
Okay, I'm pretty close to Ben again on this one as well. I've got Nebraska in the 4 hole. Love all the people that are coming back. I think it's going to be a really good unit back there. I just want to see him ball hawk a little bit more. Maybe that happens this year. And I'm with Austin here. I go Illinois. And part of it is what Ben said about the eye test. The eye test, the way they hit, they came up and popped people all year long. Getting Beeson back is a big get. Iowa lost quite a bit there. I think Iowa structurally is probably better. But again, we're splitting hairs here, as we talked about. But I'll put Iowa in the 6, and then, there's a pretty good drop-off to Purdue. So we talked about it being a pretty balanced position. Probably everybody but the Boilermakers.
Yeah, man, I think, Greg, we were 1 through 7 carbon copy of each other.
It's true. Can confirm.
How about that? Well, there'll be people that raise their eyebrows about us having Iowa that low, but they lost a bunch back there. And they've had guys. Now again, I'm sure they've got dudes ready to come in and get going.
Yeah, maybe, but 12th against the pass too. That says almost as much as about your pass rush. When you got a guy like AJ Epinesa who's in there in the backfield every 2 seconds, you're not exactly going to have a ton of time to throw the ball too, but. I know Geno Stone was a really good player. Ojemudia was a really good player. I know they like Jack Corner, as I said back when we were talking about it, 81 tackles. But they're losing some parts here, and I know they'll probably end up being fine. But I like everybody else just a little bit better.
Should we get Josh's in here too?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm sorry, Austin. I jumped right over Josh. Give me Josh's 4 through 7.
No worries at all. So Josh has Minnesota down at number 4, so the lowest ranking for the Golden Gophers here. Josh ranks him in 4th. He lines up with you guys in Illinois in the 5 spot, so I'm the only one that's different. I have Iowa in the 5, Illinois in the 6th. The rest of you, including Josh, have Iowa in the 6th and Purdue in the basement, as we talked about.
Okay. Very good. All right. Up next will be Tuesday night. Will be our next position breakdown. We'll go offensive line Tuesday night. Lots to get to on that. Greg Austin's room's big. That's in a lot of ways. One with numbers and by bulk, too. So we'll talk offensive line with Greg Austin on Tuesday's Sports Nightly show. All right, when we come back, we'll have our Flicks Picks segment for the week. That's next.
No sports on this weekend, but we've got you covered.
I know everything about film. I've seen over 240 of them.
Time now for Sports Nightly Flicks Picks.
And action!
Okay, let's see what everybody's been putting their eyes on the last 7 days. Ben, lead us off.
Yeah, I've been cranking out some old ESPN 30 for 30s. I watched the 2 Escobars the other night about Pablo Escobar and his name escapes me, but the other Escobar, the soccer player who ended up being killed in Colombia. To me, it's still one of the best. It's one of the first 30 for 30s, maybe the actual first 30 for 30 they ever did. It was really long. It was 2 hours long, but it's such a good one, and hadn't watched it in a long time. So I watched that one and watched the Fab Five after that. So I've been cranking some old 30 for 30s and looking for a new series. We're kind of digging through some old Netflix and might jump back into a repeat, but. We put a bow on Waco. We finished Waco, and my wife hadn't seen The Society yet, so we finished up The Society. So looking currently on the prowl for a new series.
Okay. Austin?
So I'm still going through Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and that got me Turned on to Palm Springs. It's the newest Andy Samberg movie. It's on Hulu right now. I'll explain a little bit more, but here's a trailer.
It's going to be a beautiful wedding. Good day so far? Today, tomorrow, it's all the same.
You! What is going on? Hey, get out of the water!
Guess you followed me. It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
That I might have heard about?
Yeah. The second you fall asleep, it all just goes back to the start.
I drove all the way back home to Austin, and I still woke up here.
So basically, Andy Samberg is the best man at a wedding, and his girlfriend's cheating on him, so he and the maid of honor become good friends, except it's kind of like Groundhog Day. So as soon as they go to sleep, the day resets. The premise is that they try to get out of it. They really can't. J.K. Simmons is involved with a bow and arrow somehow. But it just strikes me as Andy Samberg's take on Groundhog Day. The trailer looks pretty funny, so I think I'm going to give that a watch here soon.
Heck yeah, anything with him in it's probably pretty good. Very good. All right, Josh, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks. All right, well, I mentioned a few weeks ago, I think it was, that I'd started watching the show Lost, which is one that I've made my way through before, but it's really started to get good. I messaged Ben last night about it. He's also seen it, and we were kind of reminiscing about a few of the characters on that show, so that was fun. But another show that I'm watching for the first time, this kind of harkens back to one of our Top 10 Tuesday topics. Supermarket Sweep has made its way onto Netflix, and so I checked out a couple episodes, and I don't know if I'm going to really get into it, but I'll say it was entertaining to see I think it was probably in like 93 was the episodes that I was watching from around that season. So, early 90s hairstyles and clothes and personalities, and it was a relatively entertaining show. I don't think it's one of the best game shows of all time, but I can kind of see the appeal.
How about the products they have to go get? It's so funny, the products and how different the products were that people chose to buy in 1993 compared to now.
Exactly.
Oh, you're going to get hooked on that. I can already feel that. All right, this is the fifth and final season for The Blind Spot. And so there's just a couple of episodes left. I've been locked into this the whole time going through it, and here's a little trailer of what the last season's going to look like and sound like.
I would like to speak directly to these rogue agents.
Turn yourselves in, end the carnage before anyone else gets hurt.
We're being framed. We could lose the whole thing. We've been compromised for a really long time.
Well, there's no coming back from this.
If it goes well, meet you at the safe house.
I say we cut and run. We can't stop now.
We're hunting Madeline. She's hunting us.
Actions have consequences. These are yours.
Pretty good show. It's been on the air for, as I said, 5 seasons. This is the wrap-up. And they started it during the summer. NBC did to run it. It's got a few weeks left, so I've been keeping up on that. And I got to tell you, Yellowstone's getting good, boys. The Kevin Costner rancher story, it's getting pretty good. I haven't seen this past episode yet, but it's this is season 3 for Yellowstone, and it is not disappointed at this point in time. So good stuff there.
Still trying to figure out a way to watch it. I think I have it figured out. I just have to set aside the time now to go make that happen.
Yeah, and it's not one of those shows you can pick up midstream. You really need the backstory on a lot of this stuff as you go through it. So, it's pretty good. I know Bill Moose is a big fan. Bill Moose watches this thing. We talk about it all the time when we see him. So there's this week's Flicks Picks. Anything planned for the weekend, Ben? You got big you getting sticks out again?
We're gonna try and do some type of diaper party, socially distance wise. We might pull out the old wiffle ball bat and ball set in the backyard, but obviously with what we're dealing with now, it's making that more and more difficult to get a large group of people together. But there are a few brave souls out there that still want to participate and hang out and celebrate baby Kennedy by testing out some cold beverages. So we might dabble in that this weekend.
How's the sleep been?
Hit and miss. Last few nights have not been ideal. We kind of thought we were out of the woods like maybe 4 or 5 days ago, but it was one step forward, like 6 or 7 steps back. Let's hope it starts to turn a little bit.
Yeah, you're probably going to have more of that before it's all said and done. Callers and guests into our show. Dial us up on our Sports Nightly hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse.
Austin Norman. Time now for the Sports Ticker, brought to you by Cornerstone Bank. While times seem uncertain, Cornerstone Bank is here for you and your financial needs, just like they have been for the last 138 years. When times are difficult, there is no place like Nebraska. Bank on a solid foundation with Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Big NFL news out of Washington. 15 former female employees of the Washington football franchises are alleging sexual assault against a handful of staffers, including some in owner Dan Snyder's inner circle. All the complaints date from between 2006 through 2019. Other news from our nation's capital city this time in Major League Baseball. The Nationals are looking into playing their home games away from Nationals Park due to Washington, D.C.'s COVID-19 restrictions. The regular season is set to start 1 week from today, but the reigning champions are considering alternative sites, including Fredericksburg, Virginia, and West Palm Beach, Florida. New Orleans Pelican rookie Zion Williamson has left the NBA's bubble in Orlando due to an urgent family matter. He says he plans to rejoin the team after it's handled. He could be forced to wait between 10 and 14 days to rejoin the team due to the NBA's COVID-19 protocol, but the league will discuss the options with Williamson and the Pelicans when he's ready to return. The Memorial Tournament is underway in Dublin, Ohio. Tony Finau had a great round on the links. He shot a 6-under par 66 to lead the tournament through the first round. Ryan Palmer sits 1 shot back at 5-under. Gary Woodland, Brendan Steele at 2 shots back, a 4-under par. And Tiger Woods makes his return to the golf course. His first round was a 1-under par 71. Live inside the Husker Sports Network studios, I'm Austin Norman.
Your state, your team, your show. This is Sports Nightly.
Adrian goes under center this time. Mills, the deep back. Turn and toss it to Mills off the left side. He's to the 10. Stiff arms a man. 5 dives. He is in. Touchdown, Nebraska. Dedrick Mills finds the end zone from 14 yards out.
Now, let's check the pulse of Husker Nation with your hosts, Greg Sharp and Ben McLaughlin.
Here we are, back for hour number 2. Sports Nightly here on a Thursday night. Busy hour coming up. Teddy Greenstein going to join us later on in the hour. We'll give you a little preview of our greatest games tomorrow night with some former Huskers who are going to be chatting about the game as it goes on, led by our Brendan Stye. We'll play a little bit of snippet of that for you. And, of course, 7-on-7. Sadly, our final one of the year. Let's do it.
It's summer. The Huskers are sharpening their skills with 7-on-7 drills. We're keeping Greg and Ben in shape during the off-season with some 7-on-7 of our own. 7 topics. A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back. From sports.
For Manning, 7 touchdown passes.
To pop culture.
I never joke about my work, 007.
It's time to go 7-on-7 on Sports Nightly.
Well, Greg and Ben, we've been keeping you guys in shape with 7-on-7 all summer long. We've also been keeping someone else in shape, apparently. He hasn't been working out with the team. He rejoins us for our last summer practice. May I reintroduce the one, the only, Tim Curran.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, but you've just made a giant mistake. You've let loose the bull in the china shop. I'm ready to knock things over. I've been chomping at the bit, ready to get after it, and now is the time.
I get it, Tim. China, like Hong Kong China, like your Cthulhu's. Are you over the disappointment of your boys in SNBL?
I mean, I had recovered, but until Ben just took that cheap shot after my beloved franchise.
You let it out with the China reference.
But Hong Kong isn't technically a part of China unless you know something I don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we get into geopolitics right now, but we can.
Hot start to your first segment back, Tim.
Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back. All right, so we're going to do this like we did. I don't remember if it was last week or a couple weeks ago. Myself, Josh, and Tim have all prepared topics. So I'll take 1, 4, and 7, Josh 2 and 5, and Tim 3 and 6. So Hope you guys are ready. Buckle in because we're headed to space for our first topic. So recently, NASA released a cologne called Ode to Space that combines the scent of seared steak, raspberries, and rum to create what astronauts describe as the smell of outer space. So this has been in development for about a decade now, but red tape and bureaucracy have kept it from being released until now. A Freedom of Information Act actually got it started. Now there's a Kickstarter campaign that's raised about $200,000 of cologne that sells for $30 a bottle. But my question for you guys is, would you rather smell like space for a week, eat only seared steak, raspberries, and rum for a week, or go to space for a week?
What was the first part?
Would you rather smell like space for a week, eat only seared steak, raspberries, and rum for a week, or go to space for a week?
The second one, all day. I mean, I enjoy all three of those items very much.
Come on, go to space. That's what I'm doing.
It would take you a hell of a lot longer than a week to get there.
I'm pitching a remote show from space right now to the higher ups. We'll see if we can get that done.
Think we could get a Zoom call so we could get some some nice backgrounds going.
Not much interference in space. Signal should be pretty good, right?
Come on, hasn't every little boy dreamt about being an astronaut and wanting to go up into space?
Yeah, when I was 5.
Yeah.
Then I learned I wasn't
also done
smart.
playing with Legos.
Yeah. Oh.
Don't diss Legos. Come on now, that's a cheap shot.
Wow.
I'm not dissing.
Their second dream is hosting Sports Nightly, so really we're all winners here.
Tim jumps on and Ben gets saucy. It's just automatic. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Clockwork.
He can't help himself, really.
I got excited with seared steak, raspberries, and rum. I'm good with that.
No space for Ben, then.
It's a well-balanced meal.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's move on to topic number 2 and everyone's favorite athlete. Former Major League Baseball player and current ESPN commentator Alex Rodriguez spoke up earlier today about the MLB labor agreement that will be sure to become a major issue in about a year from now, saying that the players should agree to a salary cap. MLB is the only major professional league in the U.S. that doesn't employ a salary cap, but A-Rod says that needs to change. Now, maybe there's a little bit of a motivation for A-Rod to say this, as he's reportedly in the running for the purchase of the New York Mets. So, a couple questions. First, should MLB adopt a salary cap? And second, would A-Rod make a good owner?
It went over like a lead balloon to the players when they heard what he said, because that's been a bragging point for Major League Baseball players, is that they have not succumbed to the cap that the NFL and the NBA has done. They feel like it's their kind of hook to freedom. Should it happen? I don't know. I'm kind of a free market guy, so I'm not really for that. I think that's great that they don't have a cap. Would he be a good owner? Didn't we go through this ownership group, and there was like a couple of odd names in that group?
This is the Mason Plumlee group with Travis.
One of the Plumlees.
Mason Plumlee.
Yes.
How does Miles Plumlee feel about this? I think we ought to get his opinion.
Yeah. I don't think A-Rod would be that great an owner, but my guess is he's probably not even the majority guy.
Right.
I think it's fine. And the thing about baseball is you have every team approaches it a little bit different. Like the Royals have a different mentality than the New York Yankees, and so it's as Billy Bean says in Moneyball. Tim, this doesn't apply to you. You can just let this one go over your head. But the rich get richer, and it's a rich man's game, I believe was the quote, and that's the way baseball has always been. And even if there was, you've got a large amount of those teams out there, those small market teams like the Hickman Harriers, that just wouldn't want to put forth all the money and just play the draft and play the prospect game.
Yeah, the Hong Kong Cthulhus could not deal with a salary cap. I mean, those salaries are already inflated enough. And I would have watched Moneyball had I just had the time. Just wasn't enough time to get around to it. But moving on. According to the Wall Street Journal, one of the homes featured in the beloved TV sitcom The Golden Girls has just hit the L.A. real estate market at a modest asking price of just $3 million. So if you had the chance, gentlemen, which home from a TV show or movie would you most want to live in?
Am I the only one that's seen The Golden Girls? My guess is I am.
Now, my mom used to watch that on a repeat. I've had plenty of exposure to Blanche and the gals, so
not that I've watched a lot of episodes, but I've seen a couple of them they've been on. But
man, that's a good question. Man, this might require some thought here.
Brain bender.
Well, before the Mandarin blew it up, Tony Stark's house was pretty sweet, hanging over the cliff. But that's not a TV show. That was
or it could be a movie.
Or movie.
Yeah,
I'll accept that. I'll accept the.
Claim it.
That thing was sweet.
I'm trying to think of like a
Especially if you get everything that comes with it.
that movie Richie Rich, Mount Richmore. I'll take that.
Yeah. How about the mansion they used for The Bachelor? That thing looks pretty nice, too. I mean, nice, great pool in the back.
Yeah.
Give me Michael Scott's condo. It has a plasma TV.
Shared wall, though. Paper-thin walls.
That's all right for now.
And that
The
burner
dinner
comes
party.
off. I don't know if it's supposed to do that.
Was that the dinner party one?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he buys a condo in season 2.
But he shows off the little mini TV.
Yeah, that's
when he has
season
them all
4.
for dinner.
That's when he lives with Jan and sleeps on the little footbed.
Oh, man. All right.
That's a good question. That would require more thought, but I'll go with the Richie Rich mansion.
Love it. So we'll hop from good old Scranton, PA, the Electric City, all the way out to Wyoming, USA. So last week, a 6-year-old boy named Bridger jumped in front of his 4-year-old sister to defend her from an aggressive German Shepherd. The boy said afterwards that if anyone was going to die, it should be him. He knew he was going to get hurt, and he did. He had 2 hours of surgery, over 90 stitches, and he'll need some plastic surgery moving forward. But one positive for little Bridger is that actor Chris Evans, who played Bridger's favorite superhero, Captain America, is sending him an authentic Captain America shield from the movies to use to fight off any other bad dogs that come between or try to come between him and his sister. But I want to ask you guys, what's the nicest thing you've ever done for one of your siblings? You can brag.
First of all, that's an awesome story. That's one that just tugs at the heartstrings right there. It's hard. I was going to make a joke, but it's kind of hard to. And at a story like this, that's amazing to have that instinct at that age. I saw the photos of that little boy, and man, that's a story he and that family are going to tell the rest of their lives.
This one's easy for me. I'm one of 3 boys. I'm the middle one. The other 2 of us, for my older brother's 50th birthday, we bought him a spot in the Royals fantasy camp.
Oh, nice.
Now, how cool is that?
I bet he loved that.
Paid the entry fee. He's down there and surprise hanging out with George Brett and all those guys, John Mayberry, all those guys for a week. He had a blast. He was sore for a month and a half when he got back, but he had a blast.
That's cool. I moved into my sister's basement and paid her rent. That's pretty nice. I mean,
took care of their dog.
Yeah, took care of their dog. Helped raise that. He's not little. Helped raise that animal. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's nice.
Pretty standard brother. Like didn't overperform, didn't underperform. I think I was right at par.
Hey, you did your job. Nothing more, nothing less. Can't complain about that.
Perfect.
Mr. Consistency.
All right, moving on to topic number 5. Yesterday, there was a little bit of drama on the old website Twitter.com. There's a site-wide hack that took over some accounts of famous people, including Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Elon Musk, Joe Biden, Kanye West, and others. The hackers were able to receive over $50,000 in Bitcoin transfers before Twitter shut down all of the verified accounts Twitter-wide. There were a lot of jokes made last night about the unverified accounts on Twitter rising up and taking over. But assuming that neither of you guys were behind the hacks, we'll ask you, what famous person's Twitter would you hack if you could get away with it? So basically you have free reign of their account for a few hours. You knew we weren't going to let you get away without an incriminating question before we end 7-on-7 for the summer.
I have wondered that, like who has the most Twitter followers, like Kim Kardashian or like Ariana Grande or somebody like that. Somebody with just like millions and millions and millions of Twitter followers. Like they can just tweet like an exclamation point and that's it. And that tweet would literally like go viral. I'm wondering what that would actually be like, you know, to have that many like literally millions of followers. And, you know, you could have your child or your dog walk on the keyboard and push tweet. And that tweet would see more traction than 98% of all of Twitter that entire rest of the day. That kind of power would be... That's a lot of responsibility at your fingertips.
Your top 5, by the way, are Barack Obama, 120.7 million, Justin Bieber, 112, Katy Perry, 108 million, Rihanna, 97 million, and Taylor Swift, 86 million. Those are your top 5.
I'd like to take over Draymond Green's Twitter account for a while.
There we go. Thank you, Ben. I know I could count on you to actually answer the question.
Cause a calamity.
I'll do Tom Brady's, and I'll tweet out that I'm overrated.
Oh, there we go.
There you
go.
Tim, you're going to need some ice packs after this beating tonight.
I'm like shaking mad right now. I mean, I just can't. I can't believe you would slander Tom Brady's show.
Tim, are you a Tampa Bay Bucks fan now?
A big Bucks fan. I've always been a Bucks fan since day one. Been there the whole time.
I feel like the Patriots and the Buccaneers are conflicting ideologies here.
Well, maybe a little bit, but so long as Tampa Tom is there, I'm all in. I'm all in. I've bought in. Moving on. Speaking of athletes,
That was quick.
who everyone loves. Everyone's favorite Frenchman, Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz, told ESPN recently that he wasn't a fan of the NBA's new coronavirus tip line that allows players to anonymously report others for infractions of the league's policy concerning the virus, calling it, quote, petty. Is Gobert right to call out what is essentially a tattletale hotline, or is this just sour grapes from the man who was the center of the NBA's first COVID controversy?
Yeah, can we say that Rudy Gobert, anything that he thinks is petty? I mean, good grief. Like, Rudy Gobert is the mascot for coronavirus. Like, that's what he is. Like, if coronavirus was a football team, Rudy Gobert would be on the sideline dancing around, and he might have a prop microphone that he swings around or something. Like, he's the last person that he needs to be giving advice or thoughts on how to handle coronavirus or any type of policy related to coronavirus. Sit down and be quiet, Mr. Gobert.
Has he and the Mitchell guy, they kind of kissed and made up?
I don't think so. Donovan Mitchell said he's never going to forgive him, so.
Wow. They are tattletaling on everybody. Dwight Howard got gonged for not wearing his mask walking down the hallway of his hotel room.
Well, what's to stop me? Like, Greg, I don't like you. You play for the Celtics. I'm going to call the tip line and say you didn't do this. Like,
right.
It's kind of a joke.
How are they going to verify whether what you're calling and saying is right, accurate?
I hope somebody calls and tattles on Rudy Gobert, whether it's true or not.
Man. I think this is one of those where they just start by believing the player with the higher contract first, go over any rivalries, and then he pass drama and go from there. Maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, we'll round out 7 on 7 with this. So there's a restaurant in Los Angeles that's been taking some heat this week after it was discovered it was selling moldy jams and jellies to its in-house clientele. Squirrel Restaurant had been keeping its fruit preserves in buckets in a secret kitchen, and all it was doing was scraping the mold off the top before serving it to customers.
Jeez.
But here's the thing. The owner defended the move by saying she ate stuff out of the exact same containers. So do you guys have any stories where you got rid of the bad parts of food but ate the rest?
I'm glad I've already eaten.
Yeah, same.
I am not. No. First of all, like, I'm not a mold guy at all. Like some people will see mold on something and just cut the mold part off and eat it. Like, I see mold on something, I want to throw away the entire drawer. Like, that's kind of how I feel.
Fair.
I'm guilty. Like a piece of bread, maybe the outsides have a little mold. I'll pull that off
Nope.
and still eat the bread.
Nope. I'm out. I'll just take a spoonful of peanut butter that day. I'll leave the bread out of it.
Isn't a little mold good for you? Seriously? I mean, just a little, not in big amounts.
I mean,
don't know.
You got to boost the immune system once.
Are you serious, Greg?
No, I've heard that. That's
right. I'm not making this
Yes,
up.
no,
I think it is.
I don't
Not
know.
in
How
big
is it good
amounts.
for you?
Greg, did you also own this restaurant, or what's going on? I'm just confused.
Is this a Gordon Ramsay restaurant?
No.
It's called Squirrel Restaurant. Why would you go to a place called Squirrel Restaurant? Like, is that one of the menu items? Can I have squirrel there? I don't know.
The closest thing I can get to is not eat the crust of a pizza. Like, that's the closest thing I can get to this.
Anybody throw away a beer after its born-on date's passed? Have you chucked some beers that you think are bad?
I
usually don't let them get to that point.
Finishes them off in a timely manner.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're typically gone before expiration's even a thought. So,
What about milk? I feel like that's one that people have different
I'll smell it.
opinions on.
Yeah, I'll smell it.
Yep.
If it's bad, I'm talking. Now, if it's past a date but it doesn't smell bad, I'll drink it.
Yeah.
But if it smells sour, no way, I can't do
Greg
that.
playing with fire.
If I'm on
My
a
wife and
baseball
I
trip
are-
or something and come home, And I noticed that it's a week past. Like, a week's kind of like my cutoff. I'm just like, nah, I'm not even going to mess with it.
Yeah, my wife and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum. She is, as soon as it hits the date, she's done with it, whereas I'll do like you guys said. I'll at least smell it and see if it still smells fine, I'm good.
My wife's the same way. She checks expiration dates on everything. Contact solution, Tylenol. I like stuff I didn't even know had expiration dates.
Oh, wow. Good topics. You guys finished with a bang tonight. Those were good. Those were funny. Tim, great to have you back with us tonight on 7 on 7. And thanks for revving up Ben tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I can't promise I'll watch Moneyball anytime soon, but I'm glad to be back.
I've punted on that idea that will ever be watched by Tim Curran, but it's amazing how much that movie continues to come up in conversation on the show.
Yeah. Very good. Good work, everybody. 866-HUSKER-1. If you have some thoughts about that, I don't know if there's anything in there to Twitter poll. I'll let Austin decide if he thinks something. Maybe the expiration date. Do you keep the milk past the expiration date? Could be something as simple as that. 866-HUSKER-1, the number if you want to be a part of this one. That's our Sports Nightly Hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. We're back to play a snippet of tomorrow night's greatest game next. 866-HUSKER-1, 866-487-5371. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you here on this Thursday night. Let's head to the phones. Tim in Seward's up next. Good evening, Tim.
Hey, guys. First, I just want to say that, Greg, you are absolutely correct. Mold is a form of penicillin. So when you get a penicillin shot, you're taking in some mold there. So You're spot on with that one. But my question to you is, I know the NCAA just released their, I think it was 15 pages or whatever, guideline for these universities to follow. But the coaches on this team and the players a lot better than the majority of fans that are listening right now. So do you think that our kids are going to be responsible enough to not put themselves into positions where they may face that quarantine? You got kids down at the University of Alabama that are having things called COVID parties, where they invite infected people to these parties to see how many other people they can affect. My mindset when I hear that is that college students in general are not responsible enough to step up and take this virus as extremely serious as they need to. Now, I hope when I'm saying that, I'm not referring to the kids at the University of Nebraska, because we need football. This country right now needs something to bring it up. With all the stuff that's going on with the rioting and the protests and the coronavirus, we haven't even hit the election yet. That's how crazy this year's been. So we need football, but we also need these kids to understand how important these decisions that they make, don't just affect them or their family, but they're affecting 90,000 people that want to go into Memorial Stadium and watch the game, not to mention the other hundreds of thousands of people that are watching the games at home. So going back to my original question, do you think that we've got a group of young men that are mature and responsible enough, and we've got a great group of coaches that are going to keep these kids in line and help them understand how vital it is that on a Friday night or a Thursday night, they do not go to these parties just to socialize, even for 10 minutes, just to go hook up with a buddy, talk real quick. They cannot do this at all. I know it sounds crazy because that's such a big part of the college life.
Yeah, Tim, appreciate it. Thanks for the call. That's a great question. It's going to be hard, particularly if students are allowed back on campus, Ben. These guys are going to be having classes. They're going to be interacting with people that they don't know if they do or don't have it. I think they'll be responsible enough to wear masks when they're on campus, which is what the rules are set up to be. But it's going to be hard to contain the bubble if they do allow students on campus. Even if you're a good kid, you may slip up at some point in time. It's just hard.
Yeah, it's a great call, Tim. Great question, great concern, valid concern, and there's no easy answer to that. When you're dealing with 100-plus players, you're going to have personalities that are all over the map. And just like in society where you have people on one end of the spectrum who don't want to leave their house to go get the newspaper, because of fear of the virus, and you've got one end of the spectrum, as you said, having coronavirus parties and people that could care less and people that think it's fake. I don't think you're probably going to have that wide of a spectrum within a football team, but you're going to have guys that feel differently about it and treat it differently. You just are. You're not going to have all 100-plus athletes and football players that have the same beliefs, treat it the same way, think it, at the same level of seriousness. You're just going to be over the map, and so you hope the ones that aren't taking it as serious or don't think it's that big of a risk aren't putting everybody else at risk too. I think that's kind of the best thing that you could hope for. But to your other point, you're absolutely right. It is college, and there's a lot of people, there's a lot of kids. You're in dorms, you're in classrooms, you're in all these other places. You're at the training table. You're just going to be exposed to a large amount of people, and so I don't know that you can completely abstain from being out of your bubble.
Tim, great take. Need to take a break. When we come back, we'll play that snippet of the game we're going to play tomorrow night here in Place of Sports on our greatest game, the 95 Orange Bowl, the Huskers and the Miami Hurricanes. That's coming up next. Teddy Greenside's with us from the Chicago Tribune. All right, golf's been going. Major League Baseball's about a week out. What kind of buzz is around Chicago about MLB getting started?
Yeah, I mean, momentum is really building. Now, you guys probably heard, with the White Sox and Michael Kopech. That was a really interesting decision. The dude who throws over 100 miles an hour, who's married to Vanessa Morgan, that actress who I've spoken to a bunch. He's got some anxiety and some issues to work out over there. So I think if people were going to predict a guy who was going to, bail this year, COVID-related, it was probably going to be him. An amazing talent, but when he finally pitches next year, it'll be 2.5 years off. But no, I mean, obviously, I'm almost in the shadow of Wrigley Field here, and people are just, I think, incredibly curious and excited. Bummed they won't be able to see it for themselves, but excited that we'll be hearing the crack of the bat. I mean, I'm close enough that I can hear the roar of the crowd. I don't know if I'll be able to hear the crack of the bat. I think people are curious about walk-up music and all that kind of stuff and what it'll hear and sound like. I've been watching some soccer where they pipe in the noise. I can't decide yet if I like that or not. What's your take on that?
It hasn't bothered me at all in golf. I have not watched much soccer. I'll be honest with you there. And I did talk. We did have Lane Grindle from the Milwaukee Brewers on last night, and he said they've been experimenting at Miller Park with pumping in crowd noise. He said he was not a fan, and then he observed it, and he goes, you know what? It actually kind of helped a little bit to add a little ambiance, even though it's empty in the ballpark when these guys are doing it. So I think we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know watching on TV that it'll bother me.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't be hating on it. I mean, again, I was watching soccer, and I don't think it was noise in the stadium. I think it was just the broadcast. But, these sports like soccer and baseball, and really all of them, you're just so used to the reactions. I mean, with soccer, when a guy misses the goal, for the crowd to go, for those kind of groans. So I guess we've also gotten used to the silence of golf. I mean, the lack of roars and the lack of golf claps. So we're just all desperate for some good news, because obviously with college football, man, we've talked about it week after week after week. We ain't getting good news on that front.
No, it's been a rough couple weeks for that. I think the percentages are certainly going down for that. I want to ask you about the Blackhawks as it relates to the Redskins. Obviously, the Redskins are now changing their name. That came out Monday. The Blackhawks would obviously be somebody that would be in that same realm. What discussions about that have been bouncing around Chicago?
Yeah, Greg, good question. It's so tough now to know which teams are acceptable, which ones aren't. I thought somebody had a great line. They said, the team, the Cleveland Indians, is offensive. And somebody said, I totally agree. They should remove Cleveland from the name. So, with the Redskins, I think that was the clear-cut one because it's viewed as a slur. And also Dan Snyder has just been such a jerk about it. He's been so stubborn and so close-minded and so unaffected by the criticism compared to Blackhawks management, which has basically said, look, we know this name offends some people, so let's work with Native American groups, educate us, tell us what you think, tell us, what are the things we can do to make it more palatable. Like, it used to be at a lot of Blackhawks games, you would have fans come in like a full headdress, and now that almost never happens. And the team is certainly more sensitive to in-game entertainment. So I think that team name is going to stay. Essentially, there's a divide among Native Americans in Chicago. Some say it's fine, some say it isn't, but it doesn't seem to really rankle many people. Obviously, they could just change it to the Hawks and change that logo to a bird, but oh my God, that Blackhawks logo is amazing. It would be a little sad if it went away.
I'm out of my element here. Are they part of the redo, or did they make the playoffs?
Yeah, it's funny how the NHL kind of rigged it so a lot of the biggest market teams would be in there, like New York and Chicago. So the Blackhawks will be teeing it up against Edmonton, and I think it's considered almost a 50-50 series. They wouldn't have made the playoffs without the restart.
Yeah, very good. All right, last question, college football. Do you think we'll see a revised schedule from the Big Ten, or are they just going to sit on things for a few weeks? What's your gut say?
Yeah, Greg, I mean, during the furlough, I haven't been able to write anything, but I saw it coming in terms of the conference only. And here's what I think is going to happen. I mean, the coaches really don't want the season to be, quote unquote, canceled per se, because they want their kids to be practicing and training. They don't want to say, hey, it's canceled, so now you can go out to the bars and be reckless and do whatever you want to do. So I think they're going to basically say it's a holding pattern. You know, when the announcement came about conference only, some people were like, okay, so they'll play conference games. I said, no. They've just eliminated the non-conference games. That's what's happening. They're not guaranteeing anything. And the more I thought about it in terms of guys like Kevin Warren, who really put, you know, student athlete health and safety first, I got obviously really pessimistic. So I think what they're going to do is wait for a miracle. And, think about options. But right now, as we know, the options don't look great, and I'm certainly not one who's thinking a spring season makes any sense.
Yeah. All right. Good to chat. Good to catch up. I'm glad you shaved some strokes off your game, improved that short game, and we'll chat with you next Thursday.